move your agenda. At a household level, if the children need to go to school, the mom needs to make her hair, finance will come in. So it's something that moves the world in a very silent way, and is a very good and important that you make that connection. Because life is all about making connections and seeing the right things so that you put the right focus right there. So we are going to start first by looking at finance for businesses at a very high level. And I'm going to also share my story because, as you can see, I used to be in the corporate world. I've worked at Airtel, Gulf African Bank, Equity Bank, Guarantee Trust Bank. Then I took a leap of faith and moved into entrepreneurship. And now I'm 1 year old in running my own business. And I'll tell you some of the productive ways through which you can generate income and grow your business sustainably, using the tools that are available. So let's go to the next slide. So the importance of understanding finance, you'll come to realize that if you are running a company as an SME or an entrepreneur, you'll need to understand finance so that you can sustain your business. And whenever you get that certificate from, I think it is Attorney General's office, to incorporate a company, you'll have your company ABC Limited. But that certificate is a lifetime certificate. But believe me, your business can die anytime. So because of that, your job is to look at how to sustain your business. And finance will help you sustain the business. It will help you when things like COVID come and you have a buffer that can keep you going. We have a listed company known as Serena. I believe you know the chain of hotels. So what happened during COVID is that they had retained earning worth 6 billion Kenya shillings. So that COVID year, they made a loss of 1 billion. So they were able to survive because they had a good buffer. So that's all about sustainability. And it is important that for entrepreneurs, you understand finance, you understand what each and every action in your company brings on board. And you understand where things can go wrong and you start managing them at the right time. So if you are interacting with customers, you need to know the value that you are giving them and the value that you are getting. If you are interacting with investors, the same. And even banks will want to know how you're running your company. And believe you me, we can only say the stories for so long. I think there's a lot of buzzword these days that you need to tell your story. Well, let me tell you, it will reach a point where it is only your finances that will be speaking for you. If you go to the bank, I can say all I want, I'm Robert from Abojani, but at the end of the day, how is the cash flow moving there? And you know banks, they lend based on cash flow. So by understanding that, it will mean that when you are in the market, you know how to prepare yourself so that you are bankable and ready to get funding from a bank. Again, if you want from other investors, you need to understand their language. So next slide, please. So because of that, it's very, very important that you learn two things. As an entrepreneur, you'll be running two types of finances. So on one side, it will be about you and your business. So on one side, it will be about the business, which is a different entity, and the other side, it will be about you. So a good example for people who are working, you'll find that when the bosses give instructions and tell them that today, this week, this is what we are supposed to do. We are going to Kisumu, Eldoret, and we are going to do this at this hotel. We are going to interact with customers. People do it very well. But when it comes to their own, someone can tell themselves that tomorrow I'm going to save 5,000 or 100 Kenya shillings. I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to the gym. For some reason, because no one is supervising us, it becomes very difficult. So it's important to realize that when it comes to our finances, just as we work hard on our businesses as SMEs and entrepreneurs, even for our own personal finances, we need to work hard and ensure that the personal finances that we have, they can help us live the life that we want. And later on today, we'll see why the business that you are doing as an SME, as an innovator, is just a subset of your whole life. So don't peg your net worth, don't peg your worth in this life to that business, because businesses, sometimes they can fail, startups can fail, but as an individual, if you are strong and you know what you want in life, you'll always find a way. And you've heard those stories of entrepreneurs whose businesses failed, like 5 businesses, then their 6th business worked. So that means that you really need to know that in your personal finance value chain, you need to know where the money is coming from and how that money will help you. Will it help you with paying for insurance, building a home, going for holiday, being able to at least afford some form of entertainment, leisure, and again, passing it down to your children, things like that. If you are couples, will it allow you to live a happy life? So that's what money is all about, and finance is to help you live the life that you desire. And that's why we say that personal finance is very personal. It is unique to each and every one of us, and because of that, it is a personal journey. So let's move now to finance for business first. So finance for business, you need to be financially literate. So to be financially literate is to understand the implication of finance in your business. And I would say that a business generally has only 5 things that you need to understand from today. If you understand those 5 things, whether you are a head of department, whether you are an entrepreneur, you'll have understood finance. So the first thing that you'll always have as a business is we'll have assets. So assets as a business, it means that they are the only valuable things in a business. And you'll have assets even before you start running the business. And assets, they allow you as a business to create value for your customers. So if you want to serve maybe customers online, you need a Zoom link. If you want to serve them in a banking hall, you need to build a bank branch. So it's very, very important that you know that assets, they're always the first thing to look at. And there are 2 ways to fund assets. So for you to fund your assets, if you want to buy some desks for your office, you can fund them using debt, which could be maybe from a bank or from other people. Then you can also have someone bring capital into the business. So that is known as equity. Then the cheapest source of funding that many people have forgotten, and as young people, we really need to think about that, and I'm a champion of that in a big way. The cheapest source of funding is revenue. Let's not forget that. The cheapest source of funding is revenue. And how do you get revenue? You develop a product, then you do sales and marketing. And these days, believe you me, we have very cheap ways of doing sales and marketing. So as a Bojani, you'll always find us very big online. We have a Facebook community with over 83,000 people. And that's where most of our customers come from. To create a Facebook account is free. To engage people is free. Then you tell them what is it that you are doing. So having revenue will keep you started, and after that, people can see that you actually have something that is working. So it's very, very important that we realize that revenue is the cheapest source of funding. And unlike before, whereby to get even 2,000 people if you are to organize an event at Nyayo Stadium, to bring 2,000 people, you'll use a lot of logistics. But these days, you can have Facebook Live with 100 people, 2,000, even 10,000. People have YouTube channels with over 200,000 subscribers that they can tell their customers about. So things have become much easier, and you need to learn that in a business, you need to know where the finances start. So you'll have assets, liabilities, which is debt, or things that you owe other people. Then you have equity, which is capital that you put in the business. Then mostly in a business, you'll have 2 types of activities. We've talked about revenue. The other activity is expenses. So how are you spending your money? So that is very important. It is something that no one ever wants to spend, but you need to spend so that you serve your customers. So you are sacrificing value so that you can create value for your customers. So expenses, you sacrifice value so that you can generate value for your customers. And that is very, very important for you to realize that. Then the other big lesson that I want us to learn on revenue is that most SMEs that I've interacted with, people really don't understand revenue, because revenue, like we say, it is not money. The reason why it is not money is because not all value that you are providing will be paid for upfront. So understand that revenue is just an activity. So let's say you had an event, you are going to teach people somewhere, and they've told you that they're going to pay you 50,000 Kenya shillings. But after teaching, you'll have executed. So you have 50,000 in revenue, but 0 in cash. So SMEs, listen to this. You have 50,000 in revenue, but 0 in cash, because it is what we call post-paid. You work first, then you get paid later. Then there are some revenue models that are known as prepaid. For you to make a call with any telecommunication company in Kenya, you'll have money first. For you to get anything out of a supermarket, you do what? You pay first. So for them, they have a very good revenue model because they'll not be chasing anyone after their payments. So for most SMEs, when they get that big deal of 1 million Kenya shillings, 2 million, they forget that they also need to negotiate how the money comes in. And believe you me, those unpaid bills, not all of them are going to be paid. And because of that, the biggest lesson you need to learn as an entrepreneur when you are creating value is that revenue is not necessarily money. And when you are negotiating for opportunities, look at opportunities where you get paid upfront as well, and that will help you to manage your finances and manage your cash flow. Yeah, so once you are in business, you need to understand the financial literacy, how things move in a company, and accounting. So for accounting, is just to understand those 5 items, that when you wake up in the morning, what are you going to do? How are you going to generate value for your customers, and how are you going to get paid? So it's very, very important that as much as you are passionate about changing the world, about creating value for your customers, you should also know that to sustain yourself, how you get paid really matters. And we've seen stories of pending bills. I've seen stories of customers having a lot of receivables. They've created values worth billions, and maybe there are companies that don't make it, whether they're supermarkets, and they're going down with pending bills for suppliers or SMEs worth billions. So for SMEs, how you get paid, I would emphasize that that really matters, and that several innovations that have come up. So for example, for you to use Zoom, if you are to pay for the corporate subscription, I believe you pay upfront. The same goes with DSTV. What else do you pay upfront? Like you subscribe. If you don't have money, they'll say, sorry, your account, you have insufficient balance. So those are the prepaid revenue models. So part of innovation is that you have to be very keen on your revenue model. And as an innovator, sometimes you get carried away with all these ideas, but you'll find people who, their business, like 80% of the value that they've created, they're still waiting to get paid. So it reaches a point whereby it's like your job is to work, then you beg people for payment. While other people, they come, they execute, they already have the money, they move on to the next thing. So they don't even need to hire officers to do collections, debt collections, and all those things, because their money, their services are upfront. If you don't have a Netflix subscription, Netflix will just tell you, sorry, please subscribe. Here are the payment methods. Once you pay, now you have a whole month to watch. For you to proceed to the next month, you have to pay. So that is prepaid revenue. So that's a very innovative way. Sometimes people forget that, for example, companies like Amazon, what helped them is they actually had innovation in the way they are doing their collection. So it's very, very important that when it comes to collection, you drive your business from a sustainability point of view, and ensure that the activities in the business, they also match how much you are getting. So you might find that you've created value worth 100 million or 1 million, but you have zero in your account. So a good example, again, when you go to any hospital in Kenya with a medical card. So if you have a medical card and you are being treated at the hospital, believe you me, you are being treated for free. So if I'm the doctor and I need to be paid tomorrow, the money that you'll pay my salary is not from the value that I've created for you. Because the hospital does what? They'll wait to be paid by the insurance company like 3 months down the line. So you see, that is post-paid. And they might end up having to have things like overdraft to pay salaries to doctors. So because of that, you find that when you have that card, you'll be charged slightly more. And I believe now you can see why that happens. That's not the same with someone who has gone with cash, because that cash is there and it can be used to pay employees. So very, very important that you plan. If you have an opportunity worth X amount of money, whether it's 100,000, try to say, can you give me 40% upfront to allow me to execute this job? Then after a certain milestone, how much can I get from you as the person that I'm working for? So next. So it's very, very important that you connect with accounting and financial literacy. So business acumen is just to understand those skills that you need to be able to run a business proficiently. And rarely do we get anyone to teach us this. So it's very, very important that you should know that just as we work hard to become medical doctors, just as we work hard to become a good rugby player, a good football player, you put a lot of effort. Even for business, you need to understand the moving parts. So when you are doing MBA, you are taught about economics, marketing, sales, and the moving blocks of a business. So you need to understand those things because they'll put you in a position where you are more likely to succeed. So it's very, very important to learn that. And even financial literacy. To understand those terms means that when you are talking to your team, you are talking about business. Because you might get carried away with passion and forget that it is the numbers that will actually matter in the long run. How you sustain your business, when you are out in the field doing sales and marketing, how much are you getting, and what are you remaining with? So that language needs to be part of that organization. And most organizations now, they've started taking their staff. Everyone in an organization these days, they're required to understand finance. That how does your role play out in the whole organization? So if you are in the call center, you help with customer service. And customer service helps with retention. It helps us to retain our customers. If we retain our customers, we are going to get more revenues from them, and then our organization will grow. So that means that we're also contributing to the growth of organization. Marketing people, they make people be aware of the brand. Everywhere you go, you'll see the brand there. And once people see the brand, they're likely to purchase some products and services from the organization. If they do the purchases, we have the income, and people are able to get salaries, investors are able to get dividends, government is able to get taxes. So it's very, very important that you understand finance and how it works in your organization. Then accounting literacy, what accounting does is that, I'll say that if you have a butterfly and a picture of a butterfly, so a picture of a butterfly is not a butterfly, but what does it do? It tells the story of a butterfly, even your own photo. If you see someone's photo there, you'll realize that is so-and-so. So it just tells you the story of that person. So what accounting does, it tells the story of the business. And that becomes very important when you are dealing with other stakeholders. When you are dealing with banks, they want your books to speak on your behalf. When you are dealing with investors, they want to see how your financial statements speak about you. The government or KRA, when they come to you, they'll want to see the story of your business. So because of that, you need to understand those 5 items which we said are assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses. So once you understand them, they are the only 5 moving blocks in any business. Anything else, strategy, people, they'll come to play and bring in those numbers. So that's very, very key. So next. So when it comes to accounting, you need to understand the structure, the language, and the mechanics. So the structure is just to understand, if I look at anything that I'm doing, if I bring an employee on board, if I have staff who are working for me, if I'm doing this type of business, how do I structure that in accounting world? So that is very important. So let's say I'm an employee of company X. So generally, from a financial point of view, there are only 2 things. There's the revenue that I'm bringing, and then there's the expense that the company will have on me. And the whole idea is to ensure that if I'm generating value for that company, ideally over the long run, it should be more than what they're paying me. So once you understand such things, it means that you really understand how the whole organization comes into play in your financial statement. Because companies die because of finance. So many of them didn't make it past COVID because of finance. It doesn't mean that the founders were not passionate. It doesn't mean that they didn't know what they were doing. Maybe they knew everything, but they neglected one thing. And these days, it's very easy for people to forget the building blocks of the future. So you'll find that we've had so many innovations in the world, but if you look at the history of accounting, if you can Google, it is very old. And sometimes people say that, for example, going to school is not important, and you'll find that in their company, they use accounting, they use HR principles. Basically, they're using knowledge that was created by other people like 1,000 years ago, but they don't know. So that's how these trivial things is very easy for people to forget. In fact, there's a company that is listed in the US that does just accounting. They help SMEs with accounting, and believe you me, they make a lot of money. So finance usually is something that people want to avoid, but at the long run, you really need to get to understand finance. So the language matters because when you're engaging bankers, entrepreneurs, they'll want to understand. Like, how much are you making in sales in this product? How many of this product are you going to produce? And how will it play? How much are you making per unit? So you need to be comfortable with that language. You can't just say that you are passionate, so if someone is asking you that, you get agitated that, how comes they don't understand my passion? So it's because you are lacking in language to communicate with them. So you need to understand the language so that you understand your business, how it plays, how investors will look at it, and you paint the picture. If, for example, you've started your business today, for example, it is a telecommunication company, and we have, let's say, 40 million in Kenya, and currently, there are only 100,000 subscribers. You need to tell them the story. You see, currently, we are at this point in time in Kenya. Only 100,000 people have mobile phones, and we are seeing ourselves moving to 20 million. So that's a very good story that someone can follow. Rather than saying that we see ourselves moving to 100 million people, yet even in Kenya, we have 40 million. So it's important that we connect our businesses to the numbers that we are looking for and be able to tell the story to investors. Yeah, so the perspective will matter. Perspective in any business transaction will always matter. And you need to know that as an entrepreneur. Everyone in that ecosystem is looking for something. The government is looking for taxes. The customer wants to get a cheap deal. The suppliers also want to get something. So because of that, you need to know in any business transaction where you are sitting at and be able to tell your story to justify why you want that value. The customer will say, I've been your customer for so long, so why can't I get this discount? And when you are selling, you'll always look at, I bought them at this price, maybe 50 Kenya shillings, and I want to sell at 70 Kenya shillings because that is what is my margin. So because of that, perspective really matters. And sometimes when you are too passionate, you can even be running a loss-making business without knowing. You are not putting the number in place. So you've gone, you've traveled, you've actually used transport worth 1,000, things like that, but we are not writing them down. We are just feeling like the 1,000 that you used for transport is your own money. Yet, if you include that, you could actually be running a loss-making transaction or business. So because of that, always know which side of the conversation you sit in, and come up with ways to ensure that you protect yourself, your business, and sustainability. Since in a business you have investors, they want returns and dividends. Employees, they want good benefits and salaries. Customers want value for their money. As the CEO, you are supposed to deliver revenue, value for the organization, and even shareholders. So you have all these players in the ecosystem, and it is really important that you understand how you play a role in that ecosystem, and how can you ensure that despite all these, the needs that you have in the organization, you are still able to protect the business and keep going. So when it comes to assets, this is something that has been debated a lot, and especially in the era of technology, please understand that accounting has got a fundamental weakness. So for accounting to look at something as an asset, there are two ways that must be met. There are two things that must be met. So one of them is that it must be quantifiable. So if I have a phone, it can either be 10,000 Kenya shillings or 20. Then in terms of control, I must have at least 51% control in the phone for it to be mine. So because of that, we have a lot of assets, and that's why like startups, they're really struggling to raise money locally. It's because people have not understood that not all assets are tangible. And even the best and most valued company here in Kenya, despite the respect that we give to their CEOs and the value that they create, they have no value according to financial statements. So financial statements will put their value at zero. The brand power that the company has, financial statements are not able to capture that. The employees who move things in that company, HR people always tell you that our number one asset is employees that we have, which is true. But unfortunately, accounting is not able to quantify that. And that's why now startups, they usually tend to have more value than accounting can capture. Because let's assume that you are Facebook or you are Safaricom and you have all these millions of users, like you have 30 million users. The advantage that you have is with 30 million users, it means that when you bring a new product, you're not starting from zero, right? You can bring a new product and you find 10 million customers will use it. So that is an asset that can't really be quantified, and is something that, as founders, you really need to talk to local investors, local billionaires, because they don't understand that you've grown your YouTube channel, it has 200,000 people. They'll see that the value is zero. They'll say, where is it? I want to touch that money, like 100,000 Kenya shillings. Yet, you can do an event in a YouTube channel with 200,000 people, and 50 or 100 people end up subscribing, and they pay maybe 3,000 Kenya shillings each. That will be 150. Hasn't the YouTube channel created value for you? And that's what assets are. So traditionally, this is what we look at assets, but it's just important to know that as things are shifting and changing, even at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, the technology company that is listed there, its valuation is not the same as that of banks. It has a higher valuation because they have a lot of intangibles that cannot be measured. Like when someone tells you, why don't you have this service? A friend tells you, and because of that, you go and you start using that service. That is known as network effects. You are in a family meeting, you tell people how fun it is to use a certain service. So that alone is like you are doing free marketing for that company. So you see the brand is an asset, but accounting can't capture that. So it's important that you learn when talking to investors, you should be able to quantify intangible and tangible assets. But in the financial statements, unfortunately, only tangible assets will be there. So that is why people are shocked to see that startups that are 4 years old are valued much higher than companies that have existed for a longer time. The reason why they are valued much higher is because of we look at what we call addressable market. So if you are just starting today and you have only 10 customers, yet the customers that you can serve, for example, there, let's say 20 million adults in Kenya, it means that the upside is huge. And because of the growth trajectory, you can actually tell your story on where you are headed. Yeah, so in summary, if there's a takeaway from a business point of view that you can take, share with your team, share with everyone, it is that slide. So that is Finance 101. And in finance, the whole idea is we're always creating value. And the value, they'll sit in assets. So when you have liabilities are obligations that you have to your debtors, to suppliers. And when you have people who have put money in your company, including yourself, the company has an obligation to you. So the 100,000 that you put in the business has got an obligation to pay you in future, whether it is a profit or dividend. Then revenue is an activity that generates value. So like we said, revenue is not necessarily money, since not all money is prepaid. You'll do some services where you'll be paid after you've worked, and not all of the work that you've done will ever get paid for. And lastly, expenses, you are sacrificing value so that you can generate value for your customers. So you have to pay employees, if you are Britam or companies that, like insurance companies, they have to pay commissions to their agents. Safaricom pays commission to the agents because the agents are helping to create value. So if you are the CEO and you are being asked, why are you spending this money here on this insurance agent? It's because they're bringing to us customers who are paying us premium. So we are giving them an incentive to keep the business going. So we're able to relate and speak in the business terms. So that slide is all about accounting and finance from a financial point of view, how to drive. And what you should know, we said revenue is also a source of funding, right? It is because if you have 100,000 Kenya shillings that you've generated as revenue, you've paid expenses, and you've remained with 20,000, it can fund your next expenses. So this one, we need someone to stand at the top of KICC and sing it for 1 year for all businesses in Kenya. Because these days, you just hear banks cannot fund us, or investors from the West are not funding us. People are forgetting that the cheapest source of funding is revenue. And revenue, if you want to get it in these markets, you have to fight like a lion or a lioness, because you are not the only business. Okay? Yeah, so it's very, very important that you understand that, then you're able to create value. So the extra money that will remain with after you've made your profit, they'll go under equity. So the business will become more valuable. So you'll find that you started only with 100,000, but profits have grown your equity, so now it's 1 million. So that's how the businesses become richer, and they're able to do more. When it comes to innovation, they'll go to how much they've retained in earning. And that's how those businesses, they end up becoming more sustainable than others. Yeah. So so that is just an example. I've used Safaricom statements. You'll see how their numbers sat there, so you can take a screenshot. But that is just an example. You should be able to know all those 5 dimensions from your business. So you see how much you have in assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and finally, expenses that you're spending. So let's proceed to the next slide. Proceed. Yeah, so I want to look at this, then I'll finalize with another slide. So after you've set up the business, we said that under expenses is where you sacrifice value. So for you to pay yourself, it comes under expenses. So the expenses can be either you are paying yourself a monthly salary, or you are doing drawing at the end of the year. So once you have that money, now it moves from the company to you, now the individual. And when it comes to individual, from a finance point of view, the 3 building blocks, in the morning we talked about the skill set, mindset, and tool set. I will still emphasize that when it comes to your finances. So the mindset is, what do you want for yourself? What are your personal goals in life? What are the things that you want to do? Do you want to build a home? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to raise a family? And it's important to make that connection so that when you are saving, you know that you are saving because you want to achieve a certain goal, whether it is building a home or buying a car. That is very, very important. And then the next level is now, once you have this saving, where do you put it? So that's where the skill set layer comes in. And you'll find that those who are very good savers and have zero skill set, they're usually the people that are targeted by the scammers. So they'll figure out that this person has got a lot of money, but they have zero skill set. Because of that, you need to understand how financial markets work, what instruments are available, who are the regulators. Like before you make any investment, where should you check if the company name is listed? Is it on CMA website or CBK? If today I come and tell you that I have a bank, how do you confirm that? You need to go to Central Bank of Kenya website. So that skill set is key. Then finally, tool set is the investment accounts. Going to actually open the investment account, whether it is a SACCO account that you need to put your money in. If you need to invest in government securities, you go to CBK. Because after all is said and done, what matters is how much you're putting in that account, whether it is a SACCO. And you might find people who are very knowledgeable. They have accounting degrees, BCom. So they have the mindset and skill set, but they've never opened that account. So the only thing that will pay and matter is how much you're putting in the investment account. It is not the years that you've worked. So you can't say that now I'm 22 years old, I'm ready to retire. What will matter is what you set aside during the years that you're working. And because of that, the tool set is very critical. So next. So 3 types of capital. So I'll quickly say that mental capital is about the skills that you have, the knowledge that you have, what you can do that other people cannot do. So maybe you're good at singing, or you're good at playing football, you are a medical doctor, but relationship capital is equally important because that's how you relate with people, the people you went to school with, colleagues, and then if the opportunities, if you are in a certain network, you're likely to get. So you need to work on your relationship capital. If you go to a class, don't just sit at the corner each and every day. Once you are out of campus, believe you me, the people that will help you are your classmates. So like personally, my first job is a classmate who forwarded to me the link and guided me on how to apply, and I was lucky to get it. So that's how important relationship capital is. Even the family meetings, they're important. There's a bit of people saying that they're independent, some things like that. But let me tell you, wealth and money works at interdependence layer. If you are an independent person, you want to carry the weight of the whole world by yourself, and you might crash or crumble. But if you are interdependent, it means that sometimes you can just make a phone call and you are assisted. So you avoid wasting like 20 days trying to figure out that thing. So network is very important. Then once you're able to create value and people can see it, you'll be given a token of appreciation in terms of a salary or someone buying your goods and services. And that's how you end up having financial capital. Yeah, so the last slide today, I want us, all of us who are here, to expand financial education, to expand money beyond just the 10 Kenya shillings that you have or 1,000. You need to look at your personal finances as an empire, and understand that there's financial planning, there's wealth management, we have insurance, debt management, finance for couples, all those things, and then even under estate administration and succession planning. When we are complaining that people are not able to fund our startups, it simply means that we need to create more wealth at the family level, because if the family is able to take more risks, it means that more people will be able to become entrepreneurs and SMEs, and not just go through the employment route. So look at this empire, like there you'll have a country like Kenya, then you have your Kenya Navy, right? Kenya Air Force, and the army to protect you. And when you're protecting your country, you protect all borders. Because as an entrepreneur, you can work so hard, you're able to generate even 1 million Kenya shillings in terms of profit. But if you don't have an inpatient insurance cover, it means that if there's a family emergency, you'll wipe out all the 1 million. Yet if you could have paid, let's say 30 or 50,000 Kenya shillings per annum for the insurance, it could have taken that risk on your behalf. Things like home ownership, once people grow and they reach age 35, usually it's between age 35 and 50, most people, they have what is known as a home ownership bug. They just wake up and feel like they need to own a home, and they end up making terrible mistakes. So that means that you need to plan. If you plan to own a home, plan for it very well. Take your children, if you plan to have them, through financial education, so that when you need them to take the business to the next level, they'll have understood what the business is all about, and your empire will keep growing. So if you want to grow your lineage, you want it to become better, you work on estate administration and finance for kids. And also as couples, income consolidation helps a lot if you can work on that. Then entrepreneurship and career planning, that is where the money comes from. So when you're planning and budgeting, you also need to plan how to grow your career. Take those extra courses that you need to do, whether it is digital marketing, data analysis. If you are someone who has done social sciences, these days you are encouraged to understand monitoring and evaluation, project management, and even data analysis. So if you need to go for that advanced Excel course, go. Because if you understand and you it very well and you're able to create more value, you're able to earn more in salaries or get a promotion. From entrepreneurship, again, if you spend money to learn about marketing, sales, you'll be able to generate more sales for your business, and you'll have cash flow, more cash flow as a business. And then finally, taxation. So for tax, what I would say is that the government is an idea that is here to stay with us. For that reason, ensure that you comply with the Kenya Revenue Authority, and whenever you have any issues, these days they're very friendly. So thank you very much, and I'll now take questions.
So thank you. Thank you, Robert. Let's appreciate him again. For me, my take home, and probably we'll ask all of you what is your take home, is that there are two types of revenue models: postpaid and which one? Prepaid. And from my understanding, I thought the prepaid model is very good, because if I start my startup or I start my business, I don't have to work and then go looking for the money later. So that is my take home. Thank you, Robert, for that very good presentation. I have my co-Emcee who will now assist me to take Q&A session. And before then, let's stand up and just stretch. We have been sitting for a long time as I wait for my co-Emcee. Yeah? Yeah, just, I'm just wanting to tell you to stretch. Just, yeah. Just stretch like this. Now I want to be a sports tutor. Like this. Like that. Yeah. Just bear a little bit just to feel how you know. Yeah, just bend a bit. I'm not trained, but it's good. Just bend. I can see my Emcee is touching the. I'm not very good enough. I'm blessed with height and may not get there. Yeah, and fantastic. I'll help you to do another exercise later, but for now, let's take the question and answers. And well done. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. If the mic is working, can you hear me? Yeah, just pump it up a little bit. So thank you for joining the session. It was very exciting. It was an exciting session looking at finance, and we are talking about commercialization of the research ideas. And if you get funding and you don't know how to manage your finances, then you'll have killed the innovation. And that was the essence of the session we've had this afternoon. So we're going to take questions or even comments. I think the presentation was very clear, very well done. Thank you, Robert. This is something he does at international forums, including this one, which is international. And thank you for your time. So anyone with questions, comments? Please, the mic can be taken there. Please say your name, what you're doing at the university, and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Mitash Farsani. I'm a second-year student of Economics and Statistics. My question is, being a small business owner, a startup founder myself, what recommendation would you give for online softwares for SMEs to manage their startups? Basically, there's apps like, or other systems like Odoo, there's Zoho Books, but some of them are paid, some of them are free. The free features really do not match up to the premium features, and it really becomes very difficult to operate them. And I say this from experience when I myself have some accounting background. So in that sense, what would you recommend for startup founders to use to manage business finances and record transactions and all that?
Thank you for that. So I would say that it depends on where you are. So when you are starting, it means that you might not have a lot of money, and you might look at Excel. So if you are well organized, you can have someone to help you to be accountable. And for finance, we advise that you should not be the one managing. Try to have someone who is close. Don't be the one managing. And if you outsource that to them, they might help you and it might be cheaper. Then later on, there's a tool known as Zoho. And I believe that even companies like Safaricom and banks, they're working on such solutions. So things are going to get easier. And these are some of the feedbacks that they're also looking at. So these pain points that we have, when we have meetings with the likes of Andrew from Safaricom, just tell them, Andrew, please help us with this problem. And you might be surprised that the next day you might wake up and find that they're working on that solution. So it's good to collaborate with them. But meanwhile, you can use the likes of Zoho if you have the amount, because I know there's a subscription fee. But if you can't afford, have an accountability partner. So personally, that's what I've done, to have an accountability partner, someone who helps me to look at my own personal finances and business finances. So it's always good to know that passion might always make you to want to spend money to do so many things, but it's just good to have someone to counter-check, so they'll be in a better position to help you manage the Excel sheet that you're using to manage your finances, as you wait for the ability to be able to subscribe to certain softwares like QuickBooks and the rest.
Yeah, thank you. And also to add on, I think we are in an innovation conference, so if there's an innovator, that's a problem there, which you can solve. And there's so many open source tools, including you can build solutions to do such things, and you never know. And as you scale your business, you could now start thinking blockchain for immutable records, decentralized finance, and such things. So 2 last questions. So let's take the 2 questions in succession. Any? Okay, so we have 3. So let's take 3. Okay, there's a 4th one. Let's have all of you. Maybe some are comments. Start from him.
I just wanted to make a comment. My name is Soita. I'm a PhD student at the University of Nairobi School of Business. And I also teach at some university, Technical University of Kenya. But I want to support him. This colleague of mine was asking for an innovation which can help him run his business. Now I have seen you advising him about using softwares like Excel. There are so many of them, but we have these days what we call enterprise resource planning systems. And one enterprise resource planning system, one such a system is like SAP, which is a heavy system which at his level he may not afford. We have Oracle, which I think is used by Safaricom. But these days there is a Belgian company that has opened an office in Nairobi known as Udu. When you pass along Gong Road, you will see a very big billboard. They just opened their office recently, known as Udu. There are two versions of the software you can go for. One is called an enterprise version, another one is community version. So the community one is more affordable because you don't pay anything. What you need is just an IT person to configure for you. Maybe you'll pay the IT person. But if you want to subscribe, you can still subscribe. The enterprise resource planning system is because you will be able to run the whole operation, not just finance. Like me, I'm in operations management, so I'm able to do things like production planning or operations planning if you are in services. I can do logistics, I can do finance and controlling or FICO. I can do human capital management. There are several modules. But this light duty software like Udu, I think I'm not promoting for them, but I have seen they are the best. There is one, we opened an HR office, HR agency, where we downloaded one and used an IT person, and it's doing for us very well in terms of recruitment and managing the human resources, if you are an HR agents company. So I recommend that you see Udu. Udu will help you very fast. Maybe Safaricom, they are also doing it, but Udu will be able to do it very, very fast.
Thank you very much. I think connect after this. That's good info. Let's take the 3 more questions. Please be brief in your question, comment. Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, so my name is Elvis Okonjo. I'm an alumni of the university, but I'm soon to be a student. Currently, I am with the VUCA Investment Club, and first of all is to appreciate Robert. I've been following you on Twitter, and I really love some of the things you've been promoting.
Thank you.
So it's actually a huge honor for me to meet you in person. So congratulations. So my question, or rather a clarification to you is, at what point should a startup go to the capital market so that when they want to now start expanding their businesses, at what point do you actually recommend that these startups can go up to the capital markets to get some fundings for their expansion? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question.
So 2 more.
Hello, Robert.
Hi.
Thank you for the very great presentation. My name is Maina Stephen from Swahili Stadia and also Kenyatta University. My question to you is, how do we structure the value of informational products and intangible assets while priming them for investment? And also the second question, how do you get the slides from the presentation? Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is John. We run a car rental marketplace called Zuru. It's available Play Store and App Store. So basically, it allows you to see vehicles available for hire near you. So I would like to just ask one question. How do you, what would you say about being able to run a startup with a zero funds for marketing, as in you don't have a budget for marketing straight? Okay, so the next thing is that if you are very good at social media marketing, if you're able to use data to market online and you have skills, I would ask you to be able to contact me after this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so for raising of funds, actually, today I want to tell all the startups and SMEs that are here that you can actually now raise funds at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. So as a Bojani, you have an official partnership with them to grow financial literacy and education in Kenya. So they came up with what they call USP, which is Unquoted Securities Platform. So if you ever heard about hostels or VUCA, actually they're listed not in the primary market, in that market where SMEs can actually raise. So what happens is that as a founder, you should only go for funding where it will create value for you. And you need to reconcile between ownership and also bringing in financing, because there's also what we call dilution. And we even have a dilution calculator where you can see that if this is the valuation of your company, the more you raise, the more you're likely to lose ownership. So generally, two ways to lose your company is through liabilities, debt, because the debt owner has got more rights to assets than you, and also through equity. If you raise more than a certain amount, you might find that you lose the ownership and you end up relinquishing the company to other people. So it's for you as a founder to have a trajectory, have a clear plan, so that when you're bringing investors, they're bringing more value to you and help you to grow, so that instead of being owning 100% of a hair, maybe you'll be owning just a sizable percentage of an elephant. So that's the whole reason why people go for funding. So it is a journey that you need to draw, and business and growth is also personal. So there's no rule book, it's just to be sure that you are comfortable with that, because there's an element of control that you lose. You'll need to be reporting monthly, you need to be answerable to people. When they make their calls, you need to answer. So you need to ensure that you are ready for that. Yeah. Then the next question was on how do you value intangible assets? Okay, thank you. So that is usually a very big struggle, and I can tell you, like for us, we also work with corporates and people who want to reach out to retail investors. Yeah, so it is usually very difficult, because people will say it is just a Facebook page, it is just a Twitter page. So what I would say is that you need to learn the specific industry. So you'll have ways of valuing the specific industries and even people with talent. So I know a model that used just to do small things, but later on we advise them, and they're able to come up with a contract and say that this is how much they're going to charge you if they do a video for you. They have something known as a buyout, so that if they do a video for you or a picture, you will only own it for 2 years. If you need to reuse it, you renew at 10%. So you see, there are several ways of valuing intangible, and that aspect of valuation is an art, it's not a science. So it's only science where you can say this is 10%, 20%, but an art also means that you really need to know your worth over time and see the value that you are generating for people. Yeah, and be able to learn the industry. And there's also an element where I'm advising all of us, look at global perspectives. Start learning what SMEs and startups that are in your line of business are doing in Australia, in Philippines. I learn a lot, like how to grow social media and YouTube. I learned from Philippines, because if you look at what we are doing, maybe people have like 40,000 views, but in Philippines, someone who is doing financial education has 2.8 million viewers. So you have to learn what is it that they're doing. How to structure our courses, I learned from someone in Australia. So there's a lot that you can learn with the internet. Then the presentation, you'll talk to Andrew.
Then there was a last one. How do you run with zero capital?
Yeah, so thank you very much. So what I said that revenue is the cheapest source of funding. And to get revenues, you need to do sales and marketing, right? So for us to grow our Facebook page from 0 to 83,000, we didn't pay anyone any money. And even for Twitter, last year at the beginning, we had 3,000 people only following us. He says that he follows us. Now we have around 23,000. We paid no one any money. So what we are doing, we are just doing analysis, things that are relevant. How is Safaricom performing? How do we help people with things like finance for within the family? Because there are people who don't know how to say no even to their parents and relatives when they are asked for money. These are real problems. You might think it is trivial, but once you help someone figure that out, they're like, wow, you've really helped me. I've found out that actually I can help them just with what I have, but not stretch myself. So you need to find a way of creating value and be on the ground. Usually we say vitu kwa ground, understand the heartbeat of the nation. What is in the mind of professors? How can we help them? What is in the mind of students? What about parents? And provide a solution for them. So social media marketing is about being consistent. And then over time, I will see that you are growing and you are creating value. So what I usually say that everyone is going for what is instant, like now, but if you go for timeless things, believe you me, you'll be in a world of your own, because everyone wants to do the 2 minutes TikTok videos. I attended a finance session for some tutor in the US, and we spent 3 hours. I didn't know how 3 hours ended, but that's how I came to understand finance. We are not going to understand it with 1 second on YouTube. So that you need to balance and know that those boring things, they're the ones who create the biggest opportunities for you to be different from other people. So thank you.
A big hand clap for Robert. And I think there's a gent who offered a job. Please stand up again. There's someone who asked if someone, okay, it's a shareholding arrangement, so there's an offer right there, and those are the things we are creating at Nairobi Innovation Week, real business opportunities. Thank you.
So thank you, Andrew. Let's appreciate Robert again. I did finance, but the way you have taught finance, I mean it was enjoyable and very easy to understand. And that is the kind of finance we need to understand when we start business or we start our what we say entrepreneurship. Because I think the finance we understand in the classroom is quite complex. So what he has done, he has broken it to us as entrepreneurs when we get to business. Asante sana. Now we are getting to our last session, and it's also another exciting session, setting up startup and local technology industries. I'll say that again. Setting up startup, because all of us have ideas. In fact, I sit in I am, from an administrator point of view, I'm a director, intellectual property management office, University of Nairobi. So what my directorate does, it actually protects the ideas of students. It also protects ideas for academia or members of staff. So we are not short of ideas. We are not short of intellectual property. They are there in abundance. And therefore, the next session will help us understand how we can set up startup and local technology industries. Samuel Kamochu, it's your opportunity to share your insights and your wisdom. Can we appreciate him as he prepared to share the wisdom with us? Welcome. And I'll leave Professor James J. here to do the Q&A, to double as a Masters of Ceremony, assisted by Andrew as I step out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. It's an honor. I'm not sure whether this is where you say all protocols observed. I know you work in startups, so we don't have a lot of protocols. But my name is Samuel Kamochu, as you've heard. I'm the co-founder at Meliora Technologies. Professionally, I'm a software engineer, and I've also been in telecommunications. I hope Andrew, the Engineering Board of Kenya, is not around so that they argue that I'm not an engineer. Yes, but job-wise, I've operated as a software engineer. So I was given a topic which was quite interesting, and there is so much we can talk about startups. But in my view, what I think would benefit you most is just our story and my story in Meliora, and the key things that you need to know if you're planning to start a startup. So, yes, so the first section I'll talk about the startup world, and I know you guys are tired, so I'll be very brief. I've removed a few slides from the presentation. So, yes, so I think in the morning we had the CEO of Safaricom, Peter Ndegwa, mentioned that it's all about solving problems. Innovation is all about solving problems. And even in startups, that's the case. And problems can be either the society problems, and we also heard about the customer problems or consumer problems, but I'm going to add another set of problems where we talk about the enterprise problems, because that's where we started. So, and for me to leave, I worked in Safaricom for the first 4 years, from 2010 to 2013 December. Then I went to work for another company called Comza in telecommunications. So I used to serve Airtel, develop solutions that we used to deploy for Airtel, MTN Market, Econet. So basically I've done development. But the key thing is, when I worked in that environment, I realized, there's so many things that Safaricom uses, a lot of solutions that are not local. Emcee is not built in Kenya. It's built by Huawei in collaboration with Safaricom and Vodafone. So our developers have not been able to do that. And that was a trigger for me, because Meliora means in pursuit of better. And I felt that we should change the story in a few years. So that's why I got out, because I thought that was a problem that needed to be addressed. And I believe all of you have to identify a certain problem for you to move into entrepreneurship. But then as you move there, you realize, how do you approach it? It's all about collaboration. In software engineering, if you're building an ERP like Oracle ERP as we've had, it requires thousands of engineers. So here in Africa, we know, and this has been my story, this has been our story. You have a superstar, one guy who does everything, and if that guy dies, the business dies. So the biggest challenges were collaboration and all those things, and we needed to address them. So, of course, for us to finance our business, we had to build and make some money, and then we had to build an enterprise solution, and we were lucky to have KCB as one of our customers, which is another place that you guys have to support us in terms of the ecosystem, the likes of Akina Andrew. You need to give these young guys chances, because that 1 million, 2 million, 3 million is enough to do the marketing, as my brother was mentioning. And it can actually cater for your salaries for maybe 1 or 2 years. So the other thing is, you have to get started. As we were starting, today we say Meliora, our mission is to equip, and it was quite interesting that there is a lot of mission being repeated all over. But at heart, our desire is to equip the next generation of engineers who will drive the innovations that we have, because I believe that with the skills that we have in the industry, we can share those skills with the young guys, and they can do better when they are young. So you have to get started. We didn't start with that vision. I started the business to make money, but then later you discover that it's not all about making money, and the vision becomes clearer as you proceed. So for you guys who have an idea and you have a problem, please start, and the vision will become clear as you move on. Then the other thing is resource optimization. So as my brother Robert mentioned, that we have, you have to ensure that you use what you have wisely. When I started, when we started Meliora, we started in 2015. That's about 7 years ago. But I resigned from my formal employment in 2017 June. So that tells you that it was a side hustle for some time, because the biggest resource that you have is, and I think Peter Ndegwa wrote sometimes back on his LinkedIn profile, he said that we have to use our time, skills, and our talents to reimagine a different future for our children. So it's not all about money for you to get started. Abojani started with nothing, and they got 80,000 followers. I'm sure right now they're discussing on how to commercialize that. And this is the story of us, and this is the story of those who want to get into this entrepreneurship and innovation within the startup sector. So the other thing is, once we got money, I know some of you might think once you get a check, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, you buy a Range Rover. 7 years down the line, I don't have a Range Rover, because every cent that you get, you have to use it wisely. So by the time we were hiring our first guy in 2016, we had their salary for the first 1 year. So the guy needed to work, and all we needed to guarantee is that he becomes productive in the first 1 year. And I was there to support him, and my other co-founders were there to support him. And that's the story that you need to hear, that you can actually do it. You work hard, you get some money, save, don't buy the Range Rover, just put it aside and use it now to support the other business processes that you need. And yes, as I said, the biggest thing that you have is actually the time, the skills and the talent, not even the money. Then the other thing, the story of startups is focusing outward. I think for those of you who are Christians here, the Bible says that you love your God with everything that you have and your neighbor. It's a simple statement, and you love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's a statement that I believe in, and I think it's the story of startups. When you hear Safaricom saying customer obsession, it's all about looking outward. So if you have to actually grow these startups that you're talking about, ensure that you think about the other guy. And the conversations are driven by value, and that way you'll have a sustainable startup, because most guys are willing to pay where you fix their issue. If you make someone better, they're willing to write the check. So that's the story. What can I do for KCB today? What can I do for Safaricom? Those are the questions that you need to ask yourself. And be bold to ask Andrew, and I know Angela was there in the morning. Ask them how they can support you. And I'm sure they are going to support you. Then the other thing is, plan on your transition if you are getting into a startup. As I said, I left my formal employment after 1.5 years of running the startup. And the key thing is, you needed to have the resources. And I know some of these lessons might not apply to everyone, but they worked for me. They might work for someone else. What I did first, or what we did, my wife and I, we met and we had like a small meeting and agreed on what you're going to do before I leave employment. And I leave that huge check that I used to receive. And the key idea was to ensure that I don't have any loans. We did not have any loans, whether with SACCO or with the bank. We cleared everything before 2017. And once we cleared all the loans, we also saved a lot to ensure that you get a budget home, not a house in Runda, but somewhere you don't have to pay rent, and then dive into the entrepreneurship world. And the thing that I knew for sure was, if the day I sleep after taking a cup of water and ugali, that's when I'm going to call it quits. So the key idea was, we set the bar too low to ensure that this thing has to work, because we knew the problem and we were passionate about the problem that we wanted to fix, and we had to transition. And I think some of you, this is not an easy conversation, especially for men, because most of them probably are the ones who are driving these startup conversation. I had to leave my job, and my wife was still working. So that meant that you needed to go and ask for some money, because for a whole year I didn't get paid, and we knew and we had planned for that. So it's not a thing, and I think that's basically life. And there is a tweet that I saw that summarizes this journey. So for those of you who are planning to get spouses, or they have their spouses and they're getting into the jobs, the real heroes are actually known. That these are the people who we don't celebrate, but they're the ones that make everything that we are doing work. Yes. Now, because you've heard about my story of getting into the startup world. My 7 years of just navigating through, working hard, money not coming, the little money that comes, trying to optimize it. I thought I could also talk about the technology industry, and spoiler alert, I'll not talk about metaverse, but I'll talk about things that I believe we need to look at if we are going to venture into the technology industry locally. So the key thing is, software is eating the world. This one we know. Everyone has been repeating that during the day, and we know that there is no industry that doesn't need technology. And the digital disruption is happening, and it's real. So there is no way you can ignore this. So even those of you who are saying, I'm a lawyer, you need to ensure that you understand technology, whether from the IP side or even using systems that, conveyancing and all those things that help in your operations. If you're a farmer, you heard about the disruption that is happening. So everyone has to join this ship, otherwise you'll be eaten and you'll be left alone. So there are key things that I would like us to look at, and the first thing is changing the mindset. I know I'm in the University of Nairobi in front of professors, and this is a great honor for me, but there is one challenge that I would like to pose to you guys. I know University of Nairobi is 65 years plus, since the days of the Royal Technical College, right, Professor? And we have had graduations all through. We have engineers that we have produced over the years. But the biggest question is, why don't we have a blender that is made in Kenya? Or at least if it is there, I haven't seen it in the shelves. And this is the question that we have to answer, and we have to allow ourselves to be challenged, because it speaks into the reason why we go to school. And I think most of us go to school because there was a famous song in the 90s and the 80s, I guess. 90s when I was a bit young. And it was talking about So Many Vijana, yeah, by Henry Makobi. And the motive for all of you, and probably it's true even today, that you came to school so that you can get a job, build your own house, drive a Range Rover, live in Runda or Muthaiga or Karen, and then have a good life. You were not, or your objective of coming to school was not to ensure that you create a blend. And that's the mindset that we need to change. So until we change that mindset, we do not have a very great opportunity ahead of us. All of you, if you're doing your masters, those data science courses that you're doing, what's the problem that you're fixing? Basically, you want to get a job, but we need to change the mindset where we start talking about, why am I doing that? I know I haven't done my masters. The reason is I'm waiting for a challenge to see a challenge that requires me to deal with that. And I think very soon I'll be probably coming to University of Nairobi to try and do some few things on, I'm a computer science by training. So there are a few things that we could do to ensure that we move the ecosystem forward, and I also move the business forward. But the key idea is that we must ensure that we don't do those things for granted. And that's the thing we are saying about looking outward. You study so that you can empower your old, the folks in the village. So we need to work on that. So, and when you're talking about the mindset, how do you identify challenges? I think someone in the morning mentioned challenges or problems that we can identify. And my view is you can always think of layers. There are those immediate challenges we have. Like today the forum is mainly to address one challenge, the gap between the industry and the academia, and how we can bridge it to actually drive innovation and move our country forward. That's one problem. But what other problems are there? And I'll challenge you guys. I don't know whether any one of you has ever used Okoa Jahazi. If you've used Okoa Jahazi, and maybe Safaricom needs to pay me, if you've used Okoa Jahazi, lift your hand. It's okay to take a loan. Aifuliza. Yes, I can see majority of you have used Okoa Jahazi. One thing that I would like to tell you, before the product came on board, if you didn't have airtime at night, we used to just assume that you can't call that person. You wake up in the morning, you go buy the voucher, you scratch it, and you load the top-up, load the airtime, and then you call. We lived our life so comfortably, we never thought there was a problem. True, Professor. We never thought it was a problem. So you have to rethink. by the time my father was sending me money from Nakuru through to NK, I never thought M-Pesa was an idea because we were quite comfortable with the things that we are doing and in the inefficiencies that we have. So when you're looking at problems, yes, the mindset is we come to school so that we can make our world better. And I have seen your university, is it Anthem, that talks about you fixing the issues in our society and fixing the issues of the world. So if that's not what you're doing, then that thing you need to stop singing it and probably change it to we want to make money. So the other thing is build an ecosystem. And what I would say about building an ecosystem as is in technology world, I do development and I have written code. I can do fintech solutions, but I am basically, in Meliora, we are focusing on customer engagement, customer experience monitoring, and customer value management. It doesn't mean that we cannot do fintech. We have the capability. Apple has the capability to build an ERP, but they're not building it. So it's for us to ensure that we don't run into the same idea, just support the other guy. I have my friend, there is a company called Coachella. When we needed a solution for payments, we go to them. Not because we can't build it, but we have to create an ecosystem. And that's why Google uses technologies like Docker, and yet they have guys who can write the C code and actually create their own containerization solution. It's just all about ecosystem. So don't try to do what your brother is doing. The problems are many. There are those that you can see, and there are those that are in another layer that require a workshop like Okoa Jahazi or even M-Pesa, because we were quite comfortable. We didn't know that we have a problem until the solution came. So then the other thing is service excellence. And this is an important note for anyone who wants to get into startup field or in the entrepreneurship world. We said it's about fixing problems, but you must excel. I'll share, we have a customer from Malawi. And all our customers for the first 5 years, we didn't do any marketing. We didn't have the budget, my brother. And what we did was the little money that we had, we used it wisely. And the other thing is we had a lot of referrals. And one of the customers from Malawi who uses our solutions, I saw the central bank indicating that the dollars have to be capped. So we are lucky to bring a few dollars into the country. But the key thing was that guy talks to me, and one day he was sharing a story and saying how Kenyans are good in tech. Please note, he said Kenyans. He didn't say Kamochu or our people at Meliora. Because when I excel, I'm basically representing the country, and the vice versa is also true. So when you go out there, you must remember, if KCB has given you a chance and you mess it up, guess what? You're messing it up for the next generation. And probably if we get you, I'll ask the professor to allow me to ensure that we whip you accordingly. So you must ensure that you are the representative of the next generation. When I get a chance, I have to ensure that I do my best, because if I don't deliver, that's why Safaricom will go to India, to China. That's why KCB will go to wherever places that they're going to look for solutions, because of some people who failed and costed our generations. So you must do that. And for me, I would say one thing. I take pride in this, and I tell this to our team. And not to brag, but last year, since KCB is one of our customers, they gave us a chance to use our enterprise SMS gateway long ago, and 5 years ago, and they have been giving us a supplier rating that is unbelievable. We've never gone below 96 in the last 3 years. So we get 96, 97, 99. And the reason is because we are there to support them. Guess what? I don't think that rating is what the other international vendors are getting. But you know why we are doing so? Because of you guys who are seated there. That because of the chance they gave us, and for us to excel in what we do, they'll open a door for you. So you must always remember that whatever you do has a ripple effect. It can mess up the next generation, and we must ensure that we take it seriously. Then the other thing is get rid of the wrong spirit. And my view is this. I wrote an article the other day on LinkedIn, and guys got excited, and they were telling me how I should become a CS of ICT or whatever, all those things. But there is one thing that I know, that you do not have to get that position to fix a problem. And I'll share my personal story as I come to the end of my presentation. That you guys who think you can do better than Professor, who can do better than Professor Hutchinson, you can do better than Mushero, you can do better than Professor Ndemo. The challenge that I would like to give you is that if there is something that you can do, please take actions and help our industry. Reach out to them. Most of these guys are actually willing to accept ideas. And that's why I see people saying that, you know what, our 844 system is a failure. With students who have gotten C+ and above being just, I think 18% or something, 82% have failed. And we are happy spreading the news, and then the next year we will do the same. But we are not having forums to see how we can plug in. Guess what? If it's all about technology that can help learning and all those things, we are here. What are we doing about it? So we must stop, and whenever we see someone doing something and they're not doing it to the level of where you think that they should do it, don't just point them and trash them. Just go and support them. And that's what I would call all of you to do so that we move forward. Otherwise, we'll be talking about, you know what, these, Uhuru has failed. You know, these guys have failed. You know, Moshero was expecting more from him. But the key thing is, what am I doing to ensure that we can make Silicon Savannah a reality? I know most of the guys online, they are commenting and saying, you know what, Silicon Savannah, Kansas City is a real estate project. No. You have to come and plug in. And this is what we need to do if we are to drive this agenda forward. So, yes, and that's the life. In conclusion, I would take you back to your university anthem that talks about, you know what, I don't want to repeat, but I'll also take you back to our national anthem. It says, "E Mungu nguvu yetu," an acknowledgement that, you know, God is there. And then, amkeni ndugu zetu, we are all invited to wake up and na tujenge taifa letu, kwa sababu ndio wajibu wetu. So we know what we need to do. Your university anthem tells you what you need to do, but we always forget about this. And this is what I would like you guys to do so that we ensure that we drive those startups, because if you really focus on building the nation, not building yourself, then definitely you'll probably be working in a startup. So if you really want to build the nation, you'll go to the startup. There are so many problems we keep complaining about, and that's what startups do. So the last thing is we must equip, and this is my formula to ensuring that we drive innovation. And Professor Andrew, I don't know whether Andrew is here, but he needs to get this message. We must equip our next generation. And when I say equip, I mean we who are in the industry worked for 13 years. There are things that have connected today. Allow me to use a technical word, but there is something we learn in school in computer science called little endian and big endian, and you have no idea what you're supposed to do with that. Bitwise operations, you have no idea where they apply. Trust you me, in my career, I've seen them apply. If you're doing, you know, those HTTP APIs, this is foreign for you. But I've seen them. And these are the things that drive the oracles, the Huaweis of this world. So if you have to create the Huaweis and the oracles of this country, we must, me, myself included, must go back and share those dots that have connected 10 years later. And that's the thing that we have to do. We have to equip these young guys so that by the time they are 21, and I have a success story. I have young guys who have delivered for corporates. And that's why in the morning I was asking about corporates giving you guys some of the problems to fix. Because once they are equipped, they deliver at that age. And then the other thing is we must, after we equipping them, we must ensure that they connect. One thing I'll say is that the biggest challenge in software development, and those guys who are in the startup world, they know the biggest challenge is delivery. You put a team, Safaricom has a lot of money, they get many guys, you put a team and the team doesn't deliver. That's a big problem in most organizations. How do we fix that? Because if we don't fix that, then all the guys we have here will not be used. The reason why you have a lot of guys who are looking for jobs is because you can't deliver as a team. if we give you the skills, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to deliver. So we must promote those connections. I know the academia has done research and they have said, you know what? There are those things called social patterns. So the connections between you and your friends, those patterns are so critical. So we must create this forum, hackathon, so that we can build the chemistry. And once we build the chemistry, if you get a very good guy who has a very strong chemistry with another guy, and this guy does back-end, and this guy does front-end, I hope I'm speaking to all of you. But if those guys are doing back-end and these other guys doing front-end, and they have a strong chemistry, guess what? You get success. So we must ensure that we do the connections, and we must, and I thank the university for taking this initiative and Safaricom for supporting. But the key thing is we must create these forums where we have these connections. Whether those forums are physical, online, it doesn't matter. But until we get those connections, we won't have teams. And if we won't have teams, we won't deliver. But if we have those connections, we'll have teams, and those teams will deliver. So if I want a team of 100 guys, we just need to create an environment where we upskill them, we give them challenges, we see how the chemistry works, and we give them a chance to do those things. That's my formula and the formula that we are doing at Meliora. So once we have the connections, even in our organization, we have a team of about 20 guys, and I'm happy to pay tax as part of national building and also sustain quite a number of guys. And it doesn't mean that I'm the one who does that. I just ensure that all of us work together to ensure that our rent is paid. But the key thing is we do that in our organization. We form those small teams, and those teams can be very agile. And those teams, they must have the chemistry. And that model has worked. So we must figure out how we can take it further and scale it to reach out to many guys. And once we start building those solutions, they're actually solutions to the problems, and they'll be enterprises. I think Professor Bitangendemo once said that behind any big problem, there is a huge enterprise behind it. So we must ensure that we build and create those enterprises. Then the other thing is this. My brother from Zuru is asking how he can market his product. And we are all here. The social media algorithms thrive on those reactions. And you can do the test. Just post a link and get 100 guys to like it. The presentation that will happen, and I think Robert is a guru in that. He is the guy who gets 200,000 guys to view our post. But the reality of the matter is, if you guys don't support these startups, they'll die. So I have to come and download Zuru. I know, you know what, it might not be as having the same experience as Bolt. I don't know whether they are related or they are addressing the same market need. But they could. The key thing is we need to support our brother and ensure that we give them a chance. Where they need the funds, you can do all that. I normally say, thinking outward, all of us are buying land, but can you reserve that 10K in a year and support someone? I know you guys are in WhatsApp groups. You have 200 people, especially the professors and the guys from the industry. Those guys, they burn 10K on a sitting. So why can't they just put that 10K and 200 guys will get 2 million, and my Zuru guy has a serious budget for marketing? So we must support our industries. If the funds are coming from the West, and I'm sorry to say this, I hope, the reality of the matter, whoever owns the organization controls the stuff. We know if you get excessive funding externally, it also has a side effect in our economy. So we must ensure that we support. We must not only invest in land and buy those cars. Let's start the startups. Let's support them. And let's see what we can do to ensure that we move the conversations forward. So I'm hoping that the next time we are meeting, my Zuru guy will be talking about how he has been successful. And this is my formula of nurturing tomorrow's innovators, as recorded in the agenda. Yes, so I talked about challenges that, I'm not the Minister of Education, but I know there is a gap between all those things. I'm not the faculty chair, the dean of, maybe, or the chair of the Department of Computing. But there is one thing I know. These bytes, the reason why we say digital, it's because of numbers. Digits. When you have 2 and 5, actually the digits. And the whole idea about computing, allow me to just wrap this masterclass with some knowledge on computing. The reason why we call it digital is because everything is a number. Even when you send the word hi, H-I, to your friend, your computer, which is your phone, has to convert that H and I to a number. And that process is called coding a message. Or a message, in security, we know coded messages, yeah? The fake, the translated message to ensure that the original message is not known. So that's coding. So coding is essentially converting that message from that character into a number. And once you have numbers, computers just do one thing, compute. At the basic of any computer, there is addition, mathematical computations and logical operations. And there is nothing more. I was telling my brother who is doing statistics that if he did calculus 1, then software engineering is a walk in the park for them. Because we don't deal with, those exponentials. When x approaches, we just deal with 2 times 2 and the logic. You don't go to the bathroom, then you don't put on your shoes, then you go to the bathroom, yeah? It doesn't make any logical sense. So that's what this is all about. So for me, I am working with the young guys, and I am sharing this because on Thursday I have a forum that I'll be running to show guys why HTTP is not the only thing that you need to know. Those Laravel, those Spring Boot, the Java guys, there is more below the frameworks that we use, and I'm telling you because I've seen it. And if there are university students who are interested in software engineering and CS stuff, I'm happy to walk that path because the lessons I've learned in those 13 years, I want to pass them to you guys so that you can do more. So basically that brings me to that. So if there is, Professor, if there are any guys, young guys who you'd like us to work together in bridging this gap, and we never know the opportunities that might come, we can have conversations and see how to move forward. And thank you very much. And the initiative that I talked about is Natujenga, inspired by the whole thing about our national anthem. Let's build our nation. And that's what Meliora is all about. That's what Kamochu is passionate about. And that's what startups is all about. I know these might not apply to everyone, my journey, but I hope that it might benefit someone there. Even our pastor hopes that there is only one guy who is converted. And I hear the angels in heaven celebrate because of that guy. So thank you very much, and allow me to take it over to the MC of the day.
Thank you very much, Sir Samuel Kamoche. Kamoche? Or Kamocha? Kamochu. Thank you very much. I know when he finished his talk, I didn't hear any clapping. Can we please give him a loud applause? And I think the reason is because his message sank so deep that you just felt satisfied. Now, I know I was kind of ambushed, but I'm a member of the committee. Professor Kinoti had to step out for a quick assignment. But I will just handle the Q&A. I think Andrew is also not here. I believe the presentation by Samuel was very, very, very insightful for me. I actually teach a course in e-business, like e-commerce and all that. So we normally teach young people to think that way of towards startups. But in most cases, all they're trying to do is pass the exam. And after they get their A or B, they forget. So actualizing an idea is so different from learning about actualizing. So thank you very much, Samuel, for being a live example. Now, I'll comment briefly, then I just found some interesting things you said, particularly about, I love the question about why there's no blender made in Kenya. And I thought that's a very insightful question, because we talk a lot about Africa and development, but we still go and buy some fairly cheap things from Asia, including furniture. So that's a very deep question, and I know it's being handled at policy levels. We could discuss that as a whole thing on its own, but it's a very good question. Then I think you also talked about something about the mindset that came out again earlier. And the idea is that while many of us are technically excellent, we can easily solve technical problems. There may be some non-technical barriers to innovation, so that we can make a blender, but we are not making it. Why? So that's a deep question, and so we may want to reflect on this. But I think it lies around the mindset, but I will not go into so many. Today is a day we want to hear from yourselves, and at this stage, I think, Andrew, would you mind taking up the Q&A on our behalf? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Prof. So we've come to an exciting, thank you, I'm seeing hands up. Please keep them up. We are going to the questions. And this is the time, if you've ever thought of doing a startup, this is the right man to actually ask, or if you're having challenges. But most importantly, from an innovation continuum and framework, is there are two questions that you can ask. There's the why question. Why do things happen the way they do? But another important question in innovation is the why not question. And that's a very powerful question. And there are powerful questions that have come up from here. Why can't we make a blender from Kenya? And another question I'd like you to ask yourself is, why am I not the person who's doing the next big thing in the world? So those are self-reflection questions. Keep them in your mind. But if you have any questions for Samuel, and thanks Sam, on short notice, he agreed to come. Has a busy schedule, but he's made time for today, so really appreciate. So I saw two hands. Okay, any more questions? Okay, there are more. So we'll take these two first, and then the next two set of questions. Three actually, and then two.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm Wallo Maxwell, second year. So my question was, you've talked about and having an idea, a tech idea. And when you search about your idea, you find out that your idea has been developed by somebody else, but it is somehow 60 to 50% resembling yours, of which on the idea, maybe your idea you've added 1, 2, 3, 4 on top of that. Is it advisable to just start, continue with the idea and develop something from it, or approach the company who has your idea, maybe to, add that product or service in what they already have down? And then another thing, I'm computer enthusiast and data, I was just, and I've done 1, 2, 3 on, that is the HTTP. And this technological space is so wide that when somebody tells you to go and do a certain something on technology, I think as student also we should have somebody who should also guide and tell us that this is called metaverse, and metaverse deal with XYZ, and such kind of a person should do that. So I think I was just asking, how can you come in as as a company or as an individual to help people like me? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you once again. My name is Soita. I'm a PhD student in the University of Nairobi. Actually, my area is operations management, and operations management, the language you are speaking here, we also understand it, because operations management captures on information systems also, and at the same time, we understand what you do in ICT and the rest. Now, the question of making a blender, for instance. In Kenya, we have been having universities which are producing students in various fields. One of these fields is mechanical engineering. And the graduates of mechanical engineering I see around can only do maintenance work. You see, at the universities, we are training maintenance engineers, not production engineers. The only university that has been producing production engineers is Moi University. I don't know whether they still have their program, mechanical engineering production, and maybe Technical University of Kenya. University of Nairobi, they do a general engineering degree program. Now, what those engineers talk about, they talk about maintaining a certain machine. But when you ask them whether they can produce a simple machine parts, a blender, for instance, has, I don't know how many parts it has. It might be having around 10 different parts which needs to be assembled together. So what does that mean? For you to make a blender, you need around 10 factories or production lines. And then these production lines, you need an extra line which you do assembly. And this is the story that is repeating themselves. It's not just about blending. If you tell people in Kenya now that you are making cars, somebody might wonder what you are talking about. Because what we make here is to assemble cars. We are buying those parts from elsewhere, like what the Isuzu East Africa, the former General Motors, is doing. We are not making motorcycles, but we are assembling motorcycles. Now, from my story, you can realize that we cannot make anything in Kenya. Somebody says we are importing 90% of everything, starting from pure items to assemblies to sub-assemblies. Now that is where the problem is. Now I was talking to somebody recently because I also interact with many people and interact with the students in class also who I teach operations. And I'm asking them whether in Kenya we can make anything. Now they were telling me they can make so many things. Now I told them, you can only make biscuits. Now you see where we are. The engineers we are producing are maintenance engineers. Now the second thing is about the Konza Techno City, which is coming up now. And I hear they want to start a Techno University in June. Now what is going to happen, we expect software, matters of software development.
So maybe just, I don't know if you are commenting or you want to ask
Yeah,
a question.
I'm commenting at the same time. I want also insights from...
Ask the question direct because of time.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
So the Techno City that is coming up, we expect that important computer items, like you have heard of the microprocessors, or what we call semiconductors. We have had a shortage of such semiconductors in the whole world in the recent past. So having experienced Samuel because you told us you have worked even in Konza and other places, whether actually that Techno City is going actually to be making components, enable even our graduates to make components like semiconductors. So I better stop there because of time.
Yes, thank you. You can take the third question. This side, please. Let's finish this side first. Yes.
Thank you so much, the panelists and Mr. Kamochu. My name is David Mbea, founder of a logistics and food delivery company. At least we have our stand there. Make a point of going there. It's called Speedy Drop. I'm not a student of UON, but I just came here because of the interest in that. At least I found in the right place. Mr. Kamocho, I think we should engage because when we were doing the delivery app, we couldn't find good developers here in Kenya because you see the ecosystem is like scattered. developers are here, they know A, B, C, D here. So we had to go to India, where we contracted a company to do that for us, because they have the processes, the structures, and they laid out how they're going to execute the job with the deliverables and the project schedule. And they assigned me a project manager. We did it virtually. We are finished. Now we are just doing the reviews. Everything is on Play Store, App Store. So I would like to link up with you so that we see how you are implementing this in Kenya, because I believe that money should have come here, because I paid a lot of dollars for the money to go with all that losses in Forex. So what I would like to know is how you have structured your operations in your company in terms of the processes to handle the customer specifications from the time he gives you the idea he wants this business solution to the time you deliver, and then the quality control of that, how you debug and all that stuff. Yeah. And then, of course, if you say somebody who is doing WhatsApp for business, because we have a lot of things we want to build around that system, and we don't want to outsource it again. We want to start doing it in Kenya, because we want to become a bigger logistic company. Thank you.
Thank you, and I know Samuel will respond to some of them, and hopefully one of the hackers is doing something on WhatsApp for business that you can pick, so we still have our hacking team, and I think tomorrow we'll organize a tour so that we go and see the ideas they are pitching. We've agreed, let's take the 2 more questions, and that will be it. Samuel will respond, and we'll wind up there. So there are 2 more from this side. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Samuel, for the great presentation. My name is Stephen Minor from Swahili Studia, a student at Kenyatta University. And my question is to you is, in your journey, you've mentioned that we shouldn't work in isolation. And you have mentioned about being a CS and whatnot. And my question to you is, what policies should we be aware that would stifle innovation in our country? And in your experience, have you encountered such policies, and what did you do, what approaches did you do to get around those policies? Thank you.
Okay, we are done. I think there's one more, yes, and then we'll go to discussion time, yeah.
Hi, I'm Emcee, a third-year student at the University of Nairobi. So I have a question, though it was partially captured by the gent who came first.
Would you please stand if you can?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I have a question, though it was partially captured by the gent who went first. So in startups, you know, we are still young and we are learning, and it's common to make mistakes, and that's okay. But, you know, those common mistakes don't have to be common to you. So to avoid some of those pitfalls along the way, do you, and this goes to the both of you, do you personally offer mentorship programs, or do you as a company, like in your companies, do you offer that? Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the many questions. I hope I will remember them all. But there was the first person who asked about an idea has been partially developed, and you have an idea, but another person has it. Maybe there is a small difference here and there. And how are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to approach them, or are you supposed to run with it? And I think I mentioned earlier, the collaboration element is very critical, but you must also acknowledge that sometimes you might approach someone and you find that you don't agree on principles, yeah? So my view is you can decide to go forward with the idea and implement it or not, based on something that I learned from Steve Jobs. He was saying that in Apple, they do what they believe they can do better than everyone else in the world. So if you believe that you can actually do better than those guys, please move forward and do it. M-Pesa came while banks were there. And I believe Andrew and the Safaricom team believed that they could execute it better than the financial institutions could, or probably they had not seen the opportunity. So it's okay for you to proceed. But if there is an option to collaborate, just collaborate. This startup world journey is difficult, and if you have someone you can work with, it's always a big plus. I hope that answers your question. So there was someone who asked about that, technology is wide. There are so many things that move around, AI, big data, ML, metaverse, all those things. You're talking about, all those protocols that I do love. There are so many things in technology space. Yes, we do have a forum. If you're interested in ensuring that you have an easier way, the reason why we come to school is not because the books are not there, but there is power in the lecturer just helping you walk that journey. So even for us in the industry, that's my passion. I have a dream of becoming a teacher. I have committed immense number of hours in doing content that could help the young guys. I talked about the Natujenge thing. You can go to YouTube and check that. And maybe for the CS students or technology students, it might make a lot of sense. Even if you're in statistics, we could. So we are happy to do that. We also have a forum, and we believe that in the next phase, we will work harder to ensure that we reach out to more people. So we have a forum of many young guys in the profession that are willing to support you guys. So don't suffer alone. You can reach out to me, Samuel Kamoch. You can go to Twitter, talk to me, LinkedIn. And if you're really interested, I can also give you my number so that we talk. Then the other one is my brother, Soita, PhD student. Thank you so much, and I can relate with what you're saying about the blender, but the key point was a blender. My message was not that we need to create a blender. We need to choose our struggles. Yeah? There are many challenges, but the point is the reason why we don't have a blender is not lack of resources, lack of talent, all those things that we claim that they block us, tax, power, all those things. If the engineers that came before us had actually the interest to do that, they could fix the issue. Because those engineers are in parliament, those engineers are in places where they can make policies. So it's just a mindset thing. And unfortunately for them, so many vijana, ili mpate kazi, that was the key message for them. So we really understand why they are doing that. But the point that I'm trying to point is, this generation should not suffer from that mindset element. Don't come to school because you want a paper. Come to school with the ultimate objective of ensuring that you make your shosho to have a better life back in the village, or someone else out there who could be suffering. That's the mindset that we need to change. And again, the bridging, you talked about maintenance. My belief is this. The guys if we take this thing about building our nation seriously, trust you me, and we minimize conversations, just talking, we can find solution to those things. Even ensuring that we move from maintenance to production of that, mechanical manufacturing. It is. I know I am young, I could be naive in a number of areas, but trust you me, I believe that if we have the goodwill, we could actually move these things forward. So the key thing I'm telling you is just have the goodwill. And for the Konza, just a correction, I don't work in Konza, but if you guys are in tech and you talk about Silicon Savannah, don't use that word before visiting Konza and seeing how you can support them. So I hope you're in agreement on that, because what I'm trying to preach is we have to step forward and reach out to them. Not for you to protest so that Andrew can become the head of Konza Technopolis and take over the job of Engineer Tonui. No. It's Andrew with his capabilities, skills, talents, stepping forward and seeing how we can make this dream come true. It's not a takeover game. It's a collaboration and support game that I'm hoping that you guys and probably the guys who are online can listen and answer that. There was a guy called David Mbui, the guy from the logistics company. Yes, we can engage. My brother who was here is of Indian descent. Basically, we are not saying that We're saying we create opportunities. Let's collaborate with India, but things that we can do here, let's do them. So yes, that's my passion, to ensure that these guys, the young students, are ready to actually deliver enterprise projects. And I've seen 21-year-olds deliver for the big corporates in this country in a very short period of time. So it's possible, and that story will change, and all we need to do is to engage and see how we can work together to move this agenda forward. And yes, and congratulations and for the good job. Taking that step, it's not easy. I think as we proceed, maybe the next Innovation Forum will be able to share your story and stand where I am. So you need to ensure that you move forward, and we see how we can support you. Structured the operations. I think there was someone who asked how we've structured our company for quality control. The engineering process is, all engineering disciplines have a few things in common. They include, getting the requirements right, doing the designs, doing the implementation, testing, and all those things. So these are, I know in this forum I can't share all the details, but if you have to control the quality, you must measure each and every step. And the most important phase in my experience as a software and an enterprise software engineer is getting the requirements right and ensuring that you get the experience very right. Because most guys, I want a button. No. What's the pain? And what's the journey? Understanding everything end to end before you start writing any code and giving a quote. That will save you a lot, and then the rest of the processes will follow. So that's something that we could share, and that's what we're hoping to share with the young guys in that spirit of Natujenge. Meliora is not Natujenge, but Natujenge is the initiative to help us ensure that we enable you to build. Then the other thing is my brother from, you said Swahili Stadia. Yes. Yes, we are not supposed to work in isolation. So far, I think I've been lucky, and I can see two of my team members around here, Dan and Mas. We've been lucky, and the key thing is we've not found CBK or CA of Kenya interfering with our operations, but I believe there is space for us to ensure that we follow through, but there is no regulation that has blocked our desire to participate in enterprise software development and serve our customers at the moment. Yep. Irene, this is why my passion is to become a teacher. If you need mentorship, we have a forum where we can do that. And the whole idea about what I'm very passionate about in Natujenge is it's not me sharing what I know. It's all of us who are in the industry. My brother here, Andrew, is he doesn't give his CV, but he's a guy who has participated in setting standards in telecommunication. If you have ever heard about HTTP, you are lucky. But if you've never heard about an RFC, it's a document that defines how that protocol works. So this guy is a guy of RFC and talking about 3GPP. My hope is that I can convince him to come and ensure that we demystify these things for you guys so that you have an easier time. So it's not about me sharing, it's about you who is watching and have that experience that could benefit the next generation to come forward and we participate in the nation building. Thank you very much. Maybe Andrew, you can add or remove whatever that you think was political. Thank you very much, guys.
So Andrew will come to just give a brief wrap-up, give 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe while we're waiting for him to come back, I want to ask Kamoch one question only. One of the problems people doing startups have, always they say they don't have money. You did say that really the key issue is, I think it's skill and the desire and all that, which I kind of agree. However, I wanted to ask about the absence or apparent absence of local funding for scaling, the venture capitalist or the whatever. Who finances you as you grow? We normally find that the African startups, there's a big invasion of foreign venture capital funds. And they're purchasing all these beautiful African young companies, so they end up becoming American companies. One of my best friends, he's a young guy, he will be here tomorrow. He's running one of the startups. Their company is actually registered in Delaware. It's an American company, but it's basically a Kenyan firm, but has been registered in America because they were financed by Y Combinator. Could you just explain a bit about that issue of, while we are brilliant guys here, all the value is being taken by foreigners who see the value and buy you when you are young. So as you grow up, you become very valuable, they take all the profit.
Sorry. Thank you, Professor. It's a very controversial topic about money, because whatever stands between you and heaven is most likely money and other things that come with it. Yes, it's a controversial topic, but I said, when we started, I've never, and mark my words, I've never invested a shilling in Meliora. My investment was time. And that's why I was sharing our story of how we started, got a few shillings. I didn't buy a car. I still drive my small car that I had even before I got into the startup business. But that's the thing that is never told in the forums where we appear. I know there are guys will come, I think in day 3, we'll be talking about, there is a forum where I've seen most of the guys who have been funded. They could probably answer that. But I repeat, what you need is not money. What you need is the problem, and you invest your time and skills, fix someone's problem, the money will follow. What we lack is the patience, and we want to grow very fast. I want to live in Runda. I want to live in Karen. And my Professor Mary Kinoti here and Professor Hutchinson, they're probably not driving those cars that you want to drive, and yet they have worked very hard. So we need to be patient. In my view, money is good. There are some businesses, our business, we didn't need to have money to scale because we were dealing in B2B, and we approached the problem that we believed that certain organizations were suffering from. And I can tell you we fixed one problem for KCB in 2017, and they have financed a lot of our operations from revenue. Robert was here talking about revenue is the easiest way of financing the business. So I believe businesses need money to expand, but you also need to be careful because solving problems is not all about money. Yes, and then the other thing is, and this is to my young guys who want to get those $1 million funding, yes. I know we also have a problem of letting go that we must acknowledge. Sometimes we want to retain everything. There is also the conversation of ensuring that you have a small part of a bigger stake. We need to also acknowledge that. But the key thing is we need to question at the end of the day, where are we going? If I need money in Meliora, my first preference is from you. If I can get it from you, then we are growing our nation. But as long as we are getting the money outside, I don't know whether I can be taken off record, but it's essentially people in one country, the result, people in one country working for people in another country. That's the end game, when you hear both the series. And I said it's controversial because not everyone will agree with me. But what I've decided is I'll wake up, work hard, and do those videos to ensure that on the ground, we change the situation. Yes, Professor, I hope that answers your question, and whoever will deal with the question of money and get a very good answer will probably teleport us to where we need to be. Heaven.
So thank you very much, Kamochu. I think we'll allow now the Emcee for the day to wrap up. And I think on the money bit, I think Mr. Ambojani, who said he was my student, we can sit and chat about it. This is something I have passion for because I understand the global dynamics of the game of money. Because once all our African companies are bought when they are very young, we will never ever really have real own enterprises. Like Chinese, they have their own companies and they make their own profits. They don't sell everything. But as you say, it's controversial. But let's take that at its own time.
Okay. Let's appreciate my dean, stand here. Let's appreciate my dean. This is my dean, Faculty of Business and Management Science. Thank you for holding for me brief. Asanteni sana. So thank you. I think we have come to the end of today's session. We had very, very exciting session lined up for us. Just want to go through them briefly. But before I go through that, I just want to remind us the statistics of Nairobi Innovation Week at a glance, so that as you plan for tomorrow, you plan for the other day, you know what we have lined up for you. We have about 50 exhibitors and innovators. We thank you for being in this plenary, but we also ask you, when you find time, we have just come from the exhibition. We were taking the Vice Chancellor around the very, very exciting innovation and the very exciting exhibition. Please take time, go through and have the experience, as we are calling them, listen to the innovation stories from our exhibitors. Some are external, majority are from the university, community, academia, as well as students. So that as we move toward planning for the next year, Nairobi Innovation Week, you plan, if you don't have an exhibition there, to have an exhibition there. We have lined up for you 45 speakers for these 3 days. So I know you have been here, and thank you have been with us today. But you can imagine, we probably have done just 10 speakers today. So we have 35 speakers who will be coming to share with us their innovation stories and everything related to innovation and entrepreneurship. We have also 5 master classes. We have had, I think, 3 classes today, so we still have 2 master classes to go. And these master classes are not like your normal day-to-day academia, which all of you have gone through. They are simplified to help us internalize them from innovation and entrepreneurial perspective. We have 20 hackathons going on. There are actually people who are in 4th floor, and please take time, go to the 4th floor to see some students who have identified some problem and they are trying to hack them to come up with a solution. They will be coming here on the final day to showcase within those 3 days how they plan to solve the problem that they identified. And the first 4 teams will come here to pitch live, just to hear their stories, and the 3 teams will be selected as winners. That is, I'm just giving you a taster for what will happen on Thursday. And it's very important for us to come and hear the experience of young students who have taken up this challenge to be hackers, because it was actually open to all the student fraternity. They were told to apply. There was deadline. There was what is called a guideline for applying as to join this hackathon during Nairobi Innovation Week. It will be very, very interesting to come and listen to them pitching and see how within 3 days you can identify a problem and come up with a solution and win yourself a prize. So that is hackathon. Pitching will be happening on Thursday. We have had panels discussion. Today we had 1 panel discussion. Tomorrow, moving to Thursday, we'll have other 4 panel discussion. When we had a pre-event for Nairobi Innovation Week, and we were actually training our innovators and exhibitors on how to pitch. There was one motivation speaker from United States of America who told us, just show up. Just show up. We have listened to a lot of insight. People have shared their innovation, their wisdom and their innovation. You never know. Just show up. You may take home something here which will transform your life, as well as can transform my life forever. So another 4 panel coming up. Just to repeat again, there will be pitching and judging session. We'll have judges from the industry, together with judges from academia, and I think that will be a very exciting session. Right now, there's some judging happening online because we had there are 2 levels of judgment, or there's pre-judging, so that we discriminate from the bigger team, and then we'll bring the live one for the top 4, and then we'll select 3. The pitching which is happening is online. So you can imagine, just show up. This student who applied for this opportunity, they showed up. You may never know what they will come up with and how that again will change their life. We have lined up 5 keynote speeches. We had one by Dr. Bimal Kantaria. So we have 4 more, and just show up. And of course, I had said earlier, exhibition and innovation. So that is what we have lined up for you. And today, we have had exciting session. For me, is to thank you most sincerely and welcome you tomorrow. Just show up. You may never know. These 3 days, the impact it can make on my life or on your life. So let's have a round of applause for ourselves for a day well spent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we meet here tomorrow. Tomorrow the program starts, let me get to that page. Yeah, tomorrow the program starts at 9. Tell a friend to tell a friend and to tell a friend for them to show up. I want to add there and thank you most sincerely for your time. Let's meet here tomorrow. Thank you.